Recently, the Brooklyn Nets seem like they cannot catch a break. First, they have to deal with Kyrie Irving and his COVID-19 vaccine problems, and now they have to deal with the rule that greatly impacts one of their best players. Hi, my name is Emmanuel Kami, and you're watching League Talk. If you're a new viewer and you're into basketball content and you like basketball takes, this is the channel for you, so make sure to hit the subscribe button, leave a like, and let me break down what I mean. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about the recent rule that the NBA made in the offseason that inhibits players from taking advantage of the pump fakes. Now, pump fakes are a great move to have in any player's arsenal, but in recent years, pump fakes have gone completely out of control, and they've gone so far as to cheapen the game of basketball. I'm of course talking about when an offensive player, particularly a guard, comes up, pump fakes a ball, and when their defender jumps up to try and block or guard the shot they're trying to make, the offensive player jumps into the defender, initiates a foul, and takes a low percentage, low quality shot in order to get a foul that otherwise they would have never got. I'm sure you've seen a bunch of players do this in the past. It was first started by, I think, Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade started doing it first, as he's the first player I saw doing that. But then it went to Trae Young. Trae Young does it a lot. Stephen Curry does it a lot. But one person that took it to the next level, one person that did it excessively, was James Harden. James Harden, a large portion of his points came from when James Harden went to the free throw line. Now, he would get to the free throw line from a number of ways. One of the ways James Harden would go to the free throw line was he would pump fake, jump into the defender, and shoot the shot, get the call. Oftentimes he would make the shot plus the call, and he would be able to get those points, and he would be able to tally up his stat sheet. And also, when he's driving to the basket, what he would do is he would take, as he's driving the ball, he would do this and then shoot the ball and sell the fake. He would sell the foul. He'll put his arm underneath their arm, then grab them towards him, and then go for the shot. And this would always get him a foul call. This would always get him a foul call, even though he initiated the foul, right? And through this unorthodox playing style, and we all know James Harden is very unorthodox. James Harden plays, when I first saw James Harden play basketball, he was really different. It was really weird. That's why he's one of my favorite players. James Harden is my favorite player in the NBA. James Harden's been my favorite player in the NBA for the past 6 years. But his unorthodox playing style, the way he shoots, the way he looks, when people look at James Harden, they don't really see a perennial top 5 NBA player or basketball player in general, right? Because James Harden, on a surface, James Harden is big. He's big, right? Like not muscular big, right? He's big, like kind of fat, but he's strong. James Harden's actually really strong. It might look like fat, but it's actually just his playing weight, right? And so that kind of throws people off. And another thing is, because he's big, he looks like he's slow, but he's deceptively quick. James Harden is deceptively quick, and that's how he's able to beat defenders off the dribbles, right? So James Harden is very unorthodox. He's a very unorthodox player when you first look at him, right? When you first start to watch him and when you first start to see how he's playing the game, he looks not like your typical basketball player. That's just what drew me to James Harden. You know, the huge beard, the way he just doesn't look like a regular basketball player. Like if you compare LeBron James and James Harden, LeBron James looks ripped, looks whatever, and he's got like muscles. James Harden looks like he has 4 beers of cans a night before he goes to bed, right? But it's not fat, it's just his playing weight. And all these weird things about James Harden makes him very intriguing, right? And his unorthodox way of playing basketball allowed him to master this fishing for fouls technique that he did, right? Also, James Harden is a very smart player. James Harden is a very smart, you can tell he's a smart player by his passing prowess. That's one of the ways I always judge a player's IQ, their passing prowess. In order to be a really good passer, you have to anticipate things, you have to see things before they unfold, and James Harden made some of the best passes this side of LeBron James, right? So I know James Harden's a smart basketball player. That IQ is also what led him to completely and utterly excessively manipulate this rule to gain favor, right, from foul calls. And this is what turned a lot of people off from James Harden, right? I understand what turned a lot of people off from James Harden is also what drew me to James Harden, what made him my favorite basketball player. Just the way he played the game, completely different, right? The way he manipulated the rules, the way he's a lefty, you don't You know what I mean? There's just so many intriguing things about James Harden, right? But now the NBA this past offseason decided this era of basketball in which people fish for fouls is over. This will no longer be allowed. Refs will no longer call these calls. And even though James Harden is my favorite player, I have to agree with the NBA here because, like I said, this type of basketball, this brand of basketball, cheapens basketball for me, right? It cheapens basketball for when you're watching it, right? And the reason it cheapens it for me is this. It negates the defenders from being fully capable of defending at their best, right? They essentially are handicapped, right? There came a point where players were literally guarding James Harden like this. Like they're guarding James Harden with their hands behind their back. And it just doesn't look fair. It doesn't look right? Give the defender all the resources that they need to make clean defensive plays, right? And if a player can just jump into you and then you get called for foul, that's not fair. And that's why I like that rule. But 5 games into the season, and this rule is impacting James Harden a lot. Through 5 games, James Harden has attempted a total of 15 free throws. Now, if you know James Harden, and I know James Harden because he's my favorite player, but if you know him, this is extremely, extremely low and out of the blue for him. He averaged like 15 free throws a game in a past, right? So this is extremely low. That's 15 points in 5 games due to free throws, right? And this has lowered James Harden's productivity to 16.6 points per game. And James Harden looks like a completely different player. And so with this productivity going down, I have to ask, how much does this impact the Brooklyn Nets' chances of winning the finals? Like I said, the Nets already have a Kyrie Irving problem in which they don't know their future with him, right? But now their second best player, James Harden, is relegated to being just your run-of-the-mill all-star, right? Because James Harden, if he continues to stay in this slump like he is right now, I think James Harden falls from top 5 player to just your run-of-the-mill all-star player, right? And I don't think the Brooklyn Nets make it to the finals if James Harden is not playing as a top 5 player. I think they can make it out of the East, but even then, that would be hard. I think the Milwaukee Bucks can totally knock them out of the playoffs if Kyrie Irving is not there. I think the 76ers are more than capable enough of knocking them out of the playoffs if Kyrie Irving's not there. Again, I think Miami is I think Miami's for real. I think Miami, the Heat, people are sleeping on them, but I think they have one of the best rosters in the league, and I think they are good enough to knock out the Brooklyn Nets without Kyrie and even give them a run for their money with Kyrie on it. That's how good I think the Miami Heat are. But do I think the Brooklyn Nets can win this championship with this new rule imposed on James Harden? Absolutely not. I repeat, absolutely not. This is not happening. James Harden needs to be the player he was in Houston in order for them to have a shot at that finals, a shot at that title if Kyrie Irving does not come back. James Harden would have to put up 30-point games, sometimes 40-point games on a regular in order for them to be a viable juggernaut like I think we used to think they were, right? And I don't think that's gonna happen because, like I said, this rule is getting him down. And then also, in the playoffs, refs tend to swallow their whistle. Refs tend to give less calls and they just let players play it out, right? And we've seen that impact James Harden in the past playoffs, right? James Harden's crumbled sometimes in the past due to the refs completely swallowing their whistle in the playoffs. And even being as a James Harden fan, I have to admit that James Harden gains a lot from the whistle, right? And so with this new rule and refs already saying, you know what, we're just gonna let you guys play, I don't see James Harden being the same kind of player, right? And I don't see them just walking their way to the finals. But again, those are my thoughts on the NBA. Guys, if you like this kind of content, make sure to hit the subscribe button, leave a like, help a brother out, and if you watched all the way throughout the end, thank you for watching, and until next time, kids.